and welcome to CNBC TV 18. I'm Malvika Jain and I have with me Professor Nico Melli, the head of the Shorenstein Center at Harvard University. Professor Melli, welcome to CNBC TV 18. My first question to you is that what would you attribute Donald Trump's victory to?
I think it's pretty clear from the data that big chunks of the country that have had really struggled economically the last 8 years were anxious for some change. They wanted something significant in terms of the challenges they face in their local communities. Trump's vote was overwhelmingly, crushingly huge in small town and rural America that's seen a real collapse of industry and commerce over the last 2 decades. And at the same time, the Obama coalition, the people who voted for Obama in 2012, really didn't show up. About almost 4.5 million people who voted for Obama in 2012 did not vote this year.
And is it because the outreach efforts by Hillary Clinton's campaign were not strong enough, or they were just too complacent that people are just going to come and vote for them?
I think for the most part, the real story here is that the anger, the intensity of the anger in rural and small town America, that they don't feel served. They feel completely left behind. That between technology and globalization and some of the changes and structural changes in the economy, there's millions of Americans who feel like that they're being left behind, that they have nothing economically. And that has been a big driver of Trump's candidacy. And interestingly, there are a lot of those people voted for Obama. Obama in 2008 ran on hope and change.
Right.
They voted for him as an alternative to the establishment. Well, he didn't deliver the jobs they were looking for, and so they voted for the next anti-establishment candidate.
Interesting. But do you think that you've worked with several presidential candidates, several other politicians who were running for office? What are the key takeaways from the manner in which Trump ran his campaign? It was definitely staffed with lesser number of people. Their messaging, do you think, was more personalized?
Trump ran a very unconventional campaign. By pretty much every measure, all the things you were supposed to do, Trump did none of them, and yet managed to get this incredible victory. And so I think that it's going to take some time to figure out what happened, although it's really clear that the passionate intensity of his voters just overwhelmed all of Hillary Clinton's organizational and technological advantages.
When you say that he didn't do anything that is conventionally done, what are the things that people conventionally do, and what is it that Trump did not do?
Well, first example is presidential candidates generally spend a lot of money on television ads. Obama and Romney both spent north of $500 million on television ads in 2012. Donald Trump spent a fraction of that, just barely more than 10% of that. He also used Twitter and Facebook to really reach out to his supporters in ways we haven't really seen before in American politics, with frequently really divisive messages that would fire up his base, but that everyone assumed would equally anger or turn off the middle.
Right, but the manner in which the media captured his campaign, there are several studies that have been conducted even at the Shorenstein Center. Do you think that the victory and the success of his campaign should be attributed largely or significantly to the media as well, the manner in which it captured its messaging and then took it forward?
Well, there's no doubt the media played a role here. But frankly, it looks like there was a lot of moving parts. I mean, I think that, in many ways, if I had to put the blame on any one thing, it's more about the weakness of the political parties and the length of the political cycle. It's a 2-year run for president. And that creates just huge amounts of time, airtime, and space that the media has to fill.
So are there any lessons from the Trump campaign on the use of Twitter for campaigning?
Well, I think that Trump really used Twitter to constantly disrupt his opponents. Any time that any of his opponents started to have a message, a story that was looking good for them, that was trending in their direction, Trump would use Twitter to divert the attention back to him in a way that was really starved his opponents in the primary of oxygen. That approach didn't work as well in the general election, and he turned to Facebook and ran these Facebook Live, almost like newscasts. Of course, they weren't news, but every night running almost like a live TV show on Facebook in a way that really got his core supporters very energized.
We also saw that towards the end of the campaign, Hillary Clinton was putting out positive messages, whereas Trump continued with his negative campaign strategy. Do you think that also worked in his favor?
Yeah, in part that did work in his favor. I mean, I think if you look at the two closing ads of the candidate, Hillary Clinton had a 2-minute television ad, you can watch it on YouTube, that was just her speaking to the camera with a very positive message. Donald Trump had a closing 2-minute ad that opened with an attack on the establishment, with attack on how on Wall Street and the economy, how poorly the leaders of the country have served the working class and the middle class in America, and then pivoted to a more positive message about how I will be your voice, I will make you can be powerful if you elect me. But it featured very little of actually Donald Trump. And I think that had a significant impact. I mean, at the end of the day, these two candidates had two of the most hated, most negative candidates in American history. And so when you have closing arguments that puts all of the spotlight on a candidate, Hillary Clinton, that Americans by and large don't like very much, it turns out to have been an error.
Well, my last question to you is that going forward, what kind of role do you foresee for social media in political campaigning? Of course, one is to kill the messaging that the other candidate is putting out. The other could potentially be to send out your message for journalists to pick up, for instance. But what are the other ways in which social media could be used as a tool in political campaigning?
This election should really worry any established leader, whether that's a political leader or a brand leader, because the lesson of this election is that being a major player, being an establishment player, is actually worth very little at the end of the day.
Wonderful, Professor Melli. It was a pleasure talking to you. Thank you for your time. And we do hope that your ideas and views will help our viewers in planning their political campaigns. Thank you for your time.
Thanks.
We were in conversation with Professor Nico Melli, the head of the Shorenstein Center at Harvard University. Thank you for watching.